You're watching BBC News. Let's bring in Mark Regev then, Senior Advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, good to see you. Thank you for coming back on the programme. You'll have heard, I think, Barbara Pled-Asher talking from Washington and the reaction from the White House to what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was saying on this ABC interview, that the Israelis would need an indefinite occupation to secure Gaza. What do you have in mind?
I think you have to listen very carefully, Christian, to what the Prime Minister actually said. He talked about a security presence, an ongoing security presence. He didn't say occupation. He didn't say political control. And it's important to distinguish between political control and between security. And from our perspective, we want to see the Gazans govern themselves when this is over. We want to see a post-Hamas demilitarized Gaza. The only thing is we want to prevent a resurgent Hamas coming back.
But controlled by who, Mark? Controlled by who? Because you heard Barbara say that Mahmoud Abbas says he's not going to ride into Gaza on the back of an Israeli tank.
We understand that. We're familiar with his perspective. And I think I won't go into specifics about who gives the political control. I'm only saying that Israel is not interested in ruling over the Palestinians of Gaza. The only thing we're interested in is making sure we don't have another October 7th massacre. Yes, and we're going to protect our people. And for the time being, there'll have to be some sort of Israeli security presence. It doesn't have to necessarily be a permanent presence on the ground. It could be fluid. Forces go in and out when they need to do so. The goal is, when this is over, and once again, we have a demilitarized post-Hamas Gaza, there should be an international effort, hopefully with Arab countries involved too, to rebuild Gaza, to reestablish society there. We want to see Gaza succeed. We want to see a Gaza that lives in peace with Israel.
The Palestinian Authority said today the Israeli government's exploiting the preoccupation with the war in Gaza to impose new facts on the ground in the West Bank. They say 9 communities in the eastern slopes of the West Bank, that's around 1,000 Palestinians, have been displaced since October the 7th. Are you doing enough to rein in extremist elements in the West Bank?
Well, first of all, anyone who takes the law into their own hands, any vigilante, any sort of violence, we oppose it, we condemn it, and the police are got to arrest such people. The police have got to arrest such people.
But they're not stopping it.
Palestinian Authority, it's a month since the terrible October 7th horrific massacre of our people. And in that month, the Palestinian Authority has consistently refused until today to condemn the brutal slaughter of Israeli civilians. And I think they have lost a lot of credibility in Israel across the political spectrum from left to right. And I think the Palestinian Authority must think very carefully about its credibility amongst the Israeli public. If you cannot condemn Hamas's slaughter, the beheadings, the rapes, the burning of babies alive,
but with
the
respect,
massacre
Mark,
of the young concert goers,
I get that
what
point.
sort of peace partner are you?
With respect, Mark, I get that. I understand what you're talking about. But the question I ask you is, what is the Israeli government doing to rein in settlers who are opening fire on Palestinians in the West Bank?
So once again, I'll repeat what I said. We condemn any such vigilante violence, and we call on the police and we order the police to arrest such people, and people who break the law should be punished appropriately. But let's be clear here. If one talks about violence on the West Bank, it's not just these extremists, and it's not all the settlers. Most of the settlers are law-abiding citizens. But these extremists, we oppose them. But what does the Palestinian Authority do to stop violence coming from its side towards our civilians? And once again, their failure to condemn Hamas's massacre of our people, I'm sorry, it's deafening.
On Sunday, the Prime Minister sent out a tweet blaming the intelligence agencies for what happened on October the 7th. He then deleted the message and apologised. Does that suggest then that he takes responsibility for what happened?
Well, in the same ABC interview where he talked about he talked about a residual security presence, I think he addressed that issue directly. And he said he knows he's the number one in the system. He's the Prime Minister. He knows where the buck stops. And he said when this is over, everyone will be, asked questions. Everyone will be held accountable, including himself.
Yeah.
It's clear there was a terrible failure. They took us by surprise. We didn't have warning. Failure number one. Failure number two, how did they cross the fence so effectively in massive numbers and massacre our people? That's failure number two. And failure number three is, why did it take us so long to eliminate the threat and to neutralize all those terrorists who crossed the border?
76% of Israelis, according to a poll I read today, want him to go. Just before I let you go, we've just had three mothers, heart-wrenching testimony from three Israeli mothers here in the studio tonight. Why are you not in constant communication with these families? They've had no communication. There's no liaison with the families. Why?
Well, we have met the families, and there's a special directorate that's been established to deal with them, and that's very important. We want to deal with these. We can only feel their pain and feel their suffering, and we're making a maximum effort to get out their loved ones. And here it has to be said, Hamas is holding 240 people, 30 of them children. Of those children, there's a baby of 9 months old. There are children who are under the age of 3. What sort of barbarians kidnap babies and infants? And I think this should make it clear to people what Israel is dealing with. Who are these Hamas people we are fighting? What sort of threat do they pose to us all? And when Israel says we will defeat and destroy and dismantle Hamas, we're not only doing ourselves a favor in liquidating this threat posed to the Israeli public, that Israeli families don't have to worry about terrorists coming across the border and butchering their children. But ultimately, I think it will also be good for the people of Gaza, who surely deserve better. I mean, Hamas has been in power for 16 years, Christian. What have they brought the people of Gaza in those 16 years? Okay. Only pain, suffering, and impoverishment. Okay. When Hamas goes, and they will, it'll be better for Israel, it'll be better for the Palestinians, it'll be better for everyone in the Middle East.
We'll get some reaction to that.